It is the Anfield Wrap. Neil Atkinson, Dan Vincent, Rob Gutmann, Jay McKenna and John Gibbons. We're recording this, as we always do, in Liverpool City Centre. There is someone doing some work on a restaurant downstairs, a Thai restaurant that's going to be called Spice. That's going to be the best Thai restaurant in Liverpool very, very soon. But if you can hear a little bit of drilling or tapping, it is in another room, so it should be fine. But that's what they're doing, just a little warning and a heads up there. Yep, I've got with me, I think I've said that already, Dan Vincent, Rob Gutmann, Jay McKenna and John Gibbons. And Rob, we're in the middle of the longest international break ever.
The longest international break on record, yeah. How long, yeah, what is it, 80? What's it, 17 days? It's something ridiculous, isn't it?
Is it like literally the longest ever?
Yeah, we've never had have we had... Actually, do you know what? Didn't we have a Monday night football after an international break in 13-14? Because I remember playing Swansea, that 2-2 draw. We got off that we'd won 3 on the bounce. There's an international break, and then we play Swansea on the Monday night football. I reckon that's the same thing. And it's
I don't remember to do all.
Yeah, and I think
Shelby has a stormer and then gives the ball away repeatedly.
Yeah, and Sturridge gets an equaliser.
Yeah.
So that was a pretty long one. It's mad though, isn't it? Because it's one of those where you want to just... It's good in as much as we'll have the players back with plenty of time. Even Coutinho and Firmino are playing in the middle of the night, aren't they, on Wednesday? We should have them well trained, and that should suit us. I think because we're the best trainers in this division, the best preparers in the league. So I think the more time we get, the better.
The best trainers in the division, the best preparers in the league. Walk around us, John.
Yeah, I mean, we do look fit, so I think there is that benefit of it being the Monday, but it just feels like it's been so long already, doesn't it? I didn't really know what to do myself at the weekend. I know some of the lads went down to watch Mourinho and really enjoyed it. I was going around Speak Retail Park, losing the will to live.
How do people do this on a normal Saturday?
They've made some changes, John, and for the good. You see, there's a Wagamama's and Nando's going to be there.
Is that right?
A Nando's and a Wagamama's.
Honestly, Rob, you've been talking about this Wagamama's for years.
And the Nando's.
The Nando's comes and goes. What we're going to talk about the longest international break in years. We're going to have a chat about Danny Ings as well, and how 17-18 shaping up, and I know that's a bit wild. And we're also going to step into having a bit of a chat about the manager playing Crown Green Bowls and what that means. But it is the longest international break for ages, and I'll go back to you, John, on this. You know, I didn't even know what the England-Malta score was today until Rob told me. It was 2-0, I believe. Something's got to be done here about all this. It's mad that England are playing Malta. It's mad that it only finishes 2-0. It's mad that this is literally impinging. This is the second international break of the season. The third one's on its way very, very shortly. You know, we play against Man United on the 17th, and then we play against Watford on the 6th, and then there's another 13 days gap. You just feel a bit like, come on, lads, you've just had the big tournaments in the summer.
It's strange how it's arranged. I think it's got to be remembered with international football that a lot of people like it, including footballers.
Yep.
So
and Liverpool supporters.
I mean, every now and again you'll get people go, "Oh, just don't let them go away." Well, the players really, really like playing for the countries, and so you know it's you know, and it exists, and a lot of people enjoy watching it as well. It just sort of feel, and I don't mind the fact that England play Malta. I don't necessarily agree with this pre-qualifying thing and stuff like that. But I just feel like it could be better arranged. I think I don't know whether you have a 3 or 4 week break where a lot of these things, you know, where they just have a little mini tournament or something to qualify for it. It seems strange that this is our second one already, but then when you look at next year, there doesn't kind of seem to be, you know, as many. I think there's one in late March, but not a huge amount in the second half of the season. I don't know whether they could just do something at the end of the season. If you know the years where there's not an international break, just kind of blitz it or something. I don't know. I think that kind of helps the teams more.
I feel as though almost I've got two things on this, and certainly when there has just been a summer tournament, and the other thing I think as well is what happens is they have the summer tournament, and then they have that first international break in September when a lot of the other countries haven't played a competitive game or have only played one by that point. We get 3 in England. One of the things I think is it's actually not fair on, for instance, Troy Deeney or Andre Gray, the sort of lads who might have a really strong start to the season, but by then we've sort of decided who's playing for England. If you have a break and then everyone can clear their edge, you can sack one manager. If you're England, you can sack 2, and then you can, you know, and then you can get ready then for and then get sort of 3 or 4 out the way in November. But what that means is it means the footballers get 3 months of playing, being the footballer that they are. The managers can make a few decisions, and also the brain, which has been like, we've just had a tournament, can actually it can rest, and then you can go, oh look, isn't it quite nice? International football's come round. It's nice to have a little bit of a break, yada yada yada, rather than the current situation, which is you're like, just do one. I'm sick of you.
Yeah, well, that's the hard thing with international football, because the majority of like people who we all know just can't bear it. So, but like Gibbo said before, a lot of people do like it. A lot of people are into it. A lot of players like playing it. And I don't think it'd matter that much anyway to the likes of a Troy Deeney, because I sort of think the squad, it just picks itself. I mean, look at this squad now under Southgate. It's like, it's going to be exactly the same as it's been previous, the same it was previous to that. Troy Deeney could go and score like 10 in his first 12 and he wouldn't be in the England squad. It's just, I don't know what Gibbo said before, that's what I think. I'd prefer it to be even 4 weeks. I mean, it'd be a killer at the time, but if it was all done in one period, I think everyone could get on board with that. It's just like another little mini tournament going on. And again, what Gibbo said, if it's at the end of the season when there isn't a tournament, surely that makes even more sense. Do you know what I mean? I just don't get it. I just don't get it, me, at all.
I agree. We said this on previous international breaks. I'll say it again. The sport is for us, the fans.
Yeah.
You are. I know John's right. International football's not the worst thing in the world for a lot of football fans. But I think if you polled fans coming into that weekend, what would you be watching? Another packed Premiership programme, or England against some European makeweights? I think the fans would always pick that. That's the entertainment of choice. It's like we're having to accommodate something as though it's school, or I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me.
There was still like 70,000 people here, though, wasn't there?
Yeah.
So there is obviously
it's not England who are deciding when they play. So you've got to think about every other country in the world as well.
I think one of the things for us outside looking in, if you don't care about it, basically, if you're not as bothered by the outcome, is you look at it and you think to yourself, just another friendly. It's a friendly. It's not even a qualifying in some cases. They're playing Spain, I think, in the next one, aren't they? Yeah, all right, it's great for them to play them, but it's a friendly. Spain are going to make a host of changes. England might try some new things. Players will get rested and they'll pull out of that squad because, well, it's only a friendly. It's not a qualifier. I'm not really bothered about us playing Spain. They play against these lads in club competitions and European competitions anyway. It's not a big deal. It's not an opportunity to test yourself. So it's when the games don't matter, or when you're playing, as is in the case often in certainly World Cup qualification groups, teams that you're easily expected to beat. It's not a challenge as such. The Malta score, as you said there, it wasn't a case of beating Malta. It was by how many and where Wayne Rooney played, kind of thing. It's not. There's a lot of focus on where Wayne Rooney plays, isn't there?
God, it's boring.
Currently now in football,
there is. Well, international football.
I'm going to start a show on it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Get Kopi hosting it.
Yeah, I bet you'd have loads of people listening. It's all loads of people have talked about. What Rob said there, though, about them wanting the packed international week, packed Premiership football weekend. I think people want to go and watch their own team, by and large. I think most supporters aren't bothered about, whether Man United, Man City are playing on the Monday or the Sunday, unless you're a Man United or Man City fan. Liverpool fans, by and large, might watch it, but they don't care. They're only watching it maybe out of interest or because we've got them coming up. I think for most international supporters, again, they're only interested in their own team, but what they seem to have now done is spread it out over like an 8-day window. It's mad. I think didn't Wales play the Thursday so that they could then play the Sunday? England played the Saturday so they can play the Tuesday. It is a bit ridiculous. They spread it out to make it more of an event, and maybe fill more slots on Sky when there's not no other footy on at all. But equally, as well, as a fan, it frustrates me that they've come so quick and that there's three in the short space of time. But equally for us, it is a bit of a good thing to have them in there, more because it's just a bit of a break for us from, usually just football. It's that week off, it's that Saturday off for John to go to Speak Retail Park, or you find something else to do. Like I know some of the lads went to watch Mourinho, and I was in work and then caught the end of the City Liverpool match. That kind of thing gives you something else to do, catch up with different people, go and try something else out, so it can be useful. What?
With those losers?
yeah, it can give you something to do sometimes, but not like it's that there's three in close successions. In close succession, it's going to make it'll just piss a lot of people off, basically.
Do you know what? I should have Valentine's Day and Mothering Sunday on that Saturday, Sunday. Yeah, just kind of your Dad's Day on the Friday or something. Have all those events that coincide with like Liverpool home to Man U and it's Valentine's Day.
Yeah, you know what?
Have it then.
Wouldn't the international break be good if you could have it as like your little trump card you could pull out your pocket?
Yeah, exactly. Your joker.
Saying that you're going to match on that Saturday is going to cause a bit of a thing. John's got this doing all 38 games. There's going to come a point where John's thinking, I'm going to piss everyone off by going to this match. Wouldn't it be great if he could just pull out his Monopoly, you know, get out of jail free card of, right, international football this weekend?
Fully enough, Jay, I'm missing my nephew's first birthday party, and that's not gone down well.
Now,
Southampton away.
You're like, couldn't you have just held him in for a couple more weeks so that England were
and
playing
at home game, I
Slovenia?
could have done both as well, but Southampton, you've got no chance.
You can't ask him to stay up. Just one.
John staking an England malt today would have been brilliant.
Yeah. All right. I feel as though we haven't done that on a show this time around, and I sort of feel obliged to nail it at some point. Going to get on talk about Danny Ings in 17-18, because me and John had a conversation about it on our video today, a conversation on Danny Ings, and I feel as though it extends itself into this. I wonder what the present is, though, as an opening question. John Gibbons, what's the present that you never got that you always wanted?
The presents...
The thing that Rob always wanted us to do in Wildcards for ages.
This is so mean. Come back to me, I'll have a think.
You'll have a think, okay. Dan Vincent, what's the present that you never got that you always wanted?
Well, when I seen it on the agenda, it hit me straight away. When I was like 10, I wanted the new Predator boots. I was playing for Little Boys at the time, and I wanted the new Predator footy boots that everyone was getting, or it seemed like everyone was getting, but there was probably about 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So on Christmas morning, when I come down, seeing the box and that, acting all cool, because you know it's wrapped up, don't you? So I thought, I'm all over these here. And when I opened them, they were Arrow footy boots, mate. Not Predator, Arrow footy boots. So yeah, that's like probably the most upsetting thing.
How did you
of my
take
childhood.
it?
Awful. Well, no, I didn't take it awful at the time. I acted like I was made up because, I don't want to upset my mum and that. But in my mind, I was thinking, they're not Adidas Predator. They're Arrow footy boots. And that is the truth, man. And the next game, Little Boys, I remember turning up at 10 as well. So you're already like, you don't want to be drawing attention to yourself anyway. And then I just turned up with and has anyone seen Arrow boots? Yeah. Like with a big massive arrow on the side, so you can't get away from it. There's no hiding them with mud or nothing. So yeah, that was it. Just turned up with them, and loads of the lads had Predator on, and they were all like taking pens before it, and like pretending that it was making the ball curl and all that.
Yeah. Buying into all the marketing.
Thinking, I can't do nothing with mine.
But you could kick them straight. With the arrow straight as an arrow.
I can't do nothing with mine. So yeah, that's definitely. And I never got them ever. So yeah, that's the thing that I wanted that I never got.
Okay. I like that story. It reminds me of that Eddie Murphy stand-up where he's talking about how all the kids in the neighbourhood were getting McDonald's, and his mum made him homemade burger, Jag McDonald's, and she was trying to convince him it was better than real McDonald's. He was fuming and gutted. I feel we've done this question because my answer comes to me straight away like Dan's, and ages me as well. When I must have been 13, I was banging into my football and music, and they just started bringing out VHS albums. This was a big new thing that bands had started making video albums. So just basically all their promo videos on one thing. And Blondie had put out Eat to the Beat album, right? And it was available on VHS, and it cost back then 30 notes in 1980 or 81. Wow. 30, wow. Yeah. So it's a decent. I wanted it, and I thought I can never afford it myself. As a present, and my birthday is usually Christmas combined because I'm Jan 5th, so they always stitch me up like that. But. So I thought, I definitely want it. More than anything else in the world, I wanted this VHS. And the fuckers didn't get it for me. My dad went out and bought me. He bought me. And I think it cost like 32 quid. The Times Atlas of World History. A big, wonderful academic tome, yeah? I thought, fuck off. I was fuming. I never said a word. It's his birthday this week. I'm going to say a word. And finally I'm going to speak up.
Yeah. Gonna ask him what he wants and get him so he fucking doesn't.
Yeah. He's 74. Can't hurt me now, Dad.
Get him a big Times Atlas.
Yeah, exactly.
Get him that. Jay, what's yours?
When I've seen this question before, I genuinely had a thought of what it was. I don't think there's been an occasion when I haven't got something I've asked for. I've been relatively fortunate in that respect.
Spoiled in that.
Yeah, but I think, like Rob, we've answered this. I think I've covered this on a podcast before. There was a time, though, when I thought I wasn't getting something that I wanted, and it was the worst thing ever. Remember the Cream of Crew kit we had, the round from 96? So I was 9. I'd asked for the 2 Liverpool kits for Christmas. So I'd been bought kits, but we changed the kit fairly quickly. I hadn't had them for 2 years, so I wasn't getting in the summer when it come out. So I said, I'll get them for Christmas. So I wanted the 2 kits, and it's all I wanted. Didn't care about any of the presents. I was 9. I didn't care about any toys or nothing like that. I wanted that, nothing else. And I remember, by this point, I knew Father Christmas wasn't real, so I knew me mum and dad bought me the presents. And for some reason, I can't quite... I used to go rooting, so I think they knew I started going rooting. So they lied to me saying they couldn't get me the kit, that they went everywhere and it was sold out. And I was 9, I believed them. I didn't know that all these other shops had them. So for some reason, my dad convinced me that they were going to buy me a desk instead.
Oh.
Desk. I don't know why a desk, and I don't know how I managed to convince myself that was a fair trade-off from the 2 Liverpool kits. So I got the kits on Christmas Day. It was the most excited I think I've ever been, but I think it's probably saved me. It's led to me being the most untrusting person. It's probably what's made me the world's biggest cynic today, because if I can't believe my parents when I'm 9 thinking I'm getting a desk, what can I believe them about?
Venal and a cynic, rooting through stuff, John Gibbons.
Nothing in particular, but when I was young, I wasn't allowed any like war stuff and stuff like that because my parents were bad hippies. So like if I wanted like
the good ones.
I only got war stuff.
No. No, what I mean by war stuff is like they wouldn't let me have like, they wouldn't let me have like Action Man or guns and stuff, or like even like bows and arrows and stuff like that. Anything that could pretend to hurt another person. My mum was in CND and all that, bandit bombing. So they wouldn't let me have it. But what was the worst thing was I'd sort of accepted that I couldn't put it on my Christmas because I wasn't getting it. But then when you'd have a birthday party and yours and kids would turn up with presents, like, you know, you get like a gun, you go, oh, brilliant, I've cracked it, I've found the loophole. And then as soon as everyone went, my mum would take it off me.
Oh, Mum, what are you doing?
Your mum was in like the very extreme version of CND there, weren't she?
Oh, yeah. We used to get our phone tapped. Yeah. That's another story.
Oh, wow.
Okay, it is another story. It feels there could be one now, but we'll move along. That wasn't me being mean to Robert. That was me asking the question he's wanted to be asked. I thought it'd be nice if he's listening because he's on his week off, and he got to answer it on Facebook Live the other day. So, hiya, Robbo. I hope you're well and you're having a nice time.
What present did Robbo want?
Oh, he told me last week, but it's completely popped out of my head. He went on at length about it as well.
What's yours?
It was on Facebook Live. I haven't been thinking about it really. I've been thinking about other things whilst I've been sitting here. So I don't know. I'll come back during the show and I'll let you know. Someone hold me to account on that. Okay, I want to talk. What I've been thinking about really is the football. Thinking about the Danny Ings situation. Dan Vincent first, which is that, you know, if the manager said go down to the under-23s, play your football, and we'll have another look, then I think Danny Ings is approaching the point where he's entitled to give the manager a knock on his door and say, I've gone down to the under-23s, I've been banging them in, 3s, 2s, I've been making it work, giving it everything I've got. At what point does this change for me? Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think that'll be more than fair. I'm expecting to see him on the bench shortly, or at least I want to see him on the bench shortly. I was calling for it before the Swansea game, even more so now. And I know that it's all behind closed doors and all friendlies, but he's still doing it. And I think in the pre-season, he didn't do his chances any harm at all. And obviously, although we only seen him at the beginning of last season, again, he done more than enough. So it's a bit of a mad one. I don't know when he's going to get. If he's not getting on the bench for the next game, although it's United, I sort of don't see how he's going to get on the bench. He can't do any more. That's what I was saying last night, having conversations about it. I don't know what more he could do. If you were his mate, you'd be sitting there going, you can't do any more, lad. You've got to be on the bench next game at least. But it's just the debate of who he'd go on the bench for, or everyone sort of puts him with Origi. Should he be above Origi? But I'd have him on the bench, full stop.
The reason I might not be on the bench, I've got on the bench so far, John, might be because the under-23 games happen around the same time as the first team games. And the point here being that the manager may well be thinking to himself, well, I'd just rather he was going and just consistently getting his fitness, proving his fitness, so on and so forth. But there's got to be a point where the sort of that box gets itself ticked.
Yeah, I don't think that's what it is, because there's been other lads like, you know, younger boys that have just been left out. There's games where Ajaria and Alexander-Arnold haven't played for the first team just in case they need it for the 23s, just in case they need it for the first team. So I don't think it's necessarily that. I think they've been quite straight with him in the summer in terms of, well, look, you've had a long time out here and, you know, we're pretty happy with what we've got. We've got faith in you. We just need you to get fit and get firing. But it is getting to that point now where he's showing it. You know, he's scoring goals for absolutely fun at that level. 2 yesterday in this behind closed doors game, which is pretty much a reserve team really. He's got, you know, 16-year-olds either side of him, and then a hat-trick last week against Ipswich. And you know, how many goals does he need to score? 6, 7, 8, you know, in a game before he gets in the team. And you can say there'll always be injuries, and I think that's fair enough. You know, he might be a case of, you know, he may just need to wait for someone to pick up a knock, and that's likely to happen, obviously, with the guys we've got. You know, Sturridge has struggled with injuries. Coutinho is always likely to pick up something, and there's the others as well. So, you know, he will, I suppose, get a chance eventually, but it's just, for him, it must be a little bit frustrating because in terms of the attitude he showed as well in these games, he couldn't do anything more. So I'd be disappointed for him if he isn't on the bench on Monday.
Well, I think he's got to play, not just because of how he's playing for the under-23s, but just so that you can convince him his future is at Liverpool. Because I think he's at that age where he's thinking, well, I want to go and play football, I can go and play football somewhere else. There was the suggestions, someone bid for him in the summer, a substantial
£20 million,
£20 million, a substantial amount of money, and Liverpool said no. You know, and Liverpool are going to have this, for example, around Ben Woodburn, aren't they? Or Woodburn, however you say his name. He's scoring goals for fun at lower levels, and at some point, another club's going to be showing a bit of interest in him, saying, well, you know, we'll give you first team football, mate, and we'll give you a decent wage. And Liverpool are going to maybe have to give him a game or two, or put him on the bench for a League Cup game, and, you know, show him that there's a pathway to progression. Now, if Danny Ings isn't getting that, and Woodburn goes over him for some of them games and gets that chance, Danny Ings is certainly going to be thinking to himself, well, why am I staying here? I'm not getting the opportunity, both because it's deserved, but also because he's just not going to... He won't see a future. He won't see an opportunity for himself to progress his career, let alone his Liverpool career.
Let's take at face value the reports, and they do reports from a number of sources that Liverpool reject £20 million for Danny Ings in the summer. Rob?
Yeah.
Why?
The only conclusion you can draw is that they really, really rate him. I mean, that's the only conclusion you can draw. I was surprised. I was beginning to think, well, yeah, you know, he's had a terrible injury. I'm not sure he was quite the level we'd have been buying this summer anyway. Now, I don't see it for him. There's too much ahead of him. But the manager threw down this mantle to him. I mean, they showed this confidence in him, I think, by turning down these bids. If those bids are true, but even putting that to one side, the rate at which he's scoring goals is. It's not just... You can look at it two ways. You go, as a senior player, he's scoring in a league that he's better than. It's not... It doesn't really prove anything. But at the end of the day, I remember when Robbie Fowler made it impossible not to pick him for the first team back in 93, 94, I think it was, he was scoring goals at the rate Danny Ings is scoring in the reserves. So what does it matter whether he's 18 or 23, 24 like Danny Ings? It's compelling now. The evidence is compelling. And... You almost have to give him going. You have to give him going, not for his sake, but for the evidence's sake, and also for the sake of the system. If you're going to say to people in the reserves, whatever age you are, as Jay suggests, even with Woodburn, although Woodburn's 16, so I think we've got a little bit more time with that. You've got to say, if this system's going to work, if you're rewarded for endeavour, for achievement, then Danny Ings has to have a go.
Yeah, if it's a meritocracy.
Yes,
it's a meritocracy, he gets a chance.
I'm going to ask you the same question. Why we reject £20 million? Let's take it at face value in the summer. Why?
Because in case Daniel Sturridge gets injured.
You think it's just that?
I think so, yeah. Because he hasn't tried to play Origi. He's played Firmino up top. He's got Mane who can play up front if you needed to. He hasn't started Sturridge. So I think that's one of the reasons why Danny Ings hasn't been on the bench. I think if he's starting Sturridge, Ings gets on the bench with Origi. But I think he's had those front three fit.
Yeah.
I think Danny Ings' question he'll be asking himself, even if he's not getting his game now, is still that when everyone's fit, do I get my game?
Yeah.
Do I play? I don't think he does. And I'd like him to. I'd like to see him involved. Mainly because I think it's slightly unfair on Rob's just saying there about whether we'd have signed him this summer based on the quality of player he was. Well, maybe the same thing could have been said about Origi before we signed him. But Danny Ings' form before he got injured was as good as Origi's was last year before he got injured, and subsequently, people are saying now, well, he's got to clearly work his way back into it. He's young and stuff like that. Danny Ings is relatively the same. Danny Ings had a lengthy injury, but Danny Ings' form before that was brilliant. He was scoring goals, coming off the bench. He was the threat, like Origi was. He was the threat for Liverpool. He was our only potent attacking threat. And you look at him as a player, and I think he fits into this team a bit better than. Under the way Klopp plays, a bit better than the way he does actually. That's why I think he'll probably be feeling I deserve to play, not just because of my form, but because I fit with this system and stuff like that. And that's where I think he'll begin to wonder, to say, well, where does my career go? It's
a funny summer because he's not afraid to sell players in the summer. We talked on the video before, he sells Jordan Ibe for £15 million. It's a decent chunk of change, let's face it, but Ibe was someone who he'd invested a little bit in, really. He'd played him, he'd looked to work with him, and then a decent offer comes in, he sells them. So if he's going to do it for Ibe, then there must be something he sees in Danny Ings. You'd have thought for him to say no, even at £20 million, I'm going to keep him, because, as I say, he wasn't shy of playing. of selling people. Sorry, and I just wonder whether he's just looking at it and looking at how he wants to play and sing and thinking, what's the scenario where he plays for me. And I think with maybe Ibe, he was seeing one less and less. If he had his mind on this 4-3 thing, he's thinking, is him and his attacking player in a front three, is he getting me enough? Is he doing enough for me? And thinking, no, where his Ings, there might be a case of, well, he just hasn't seen him, so he wants to have a proper look at him first. And it might be a case he ends up going in January or next summer once he's properly worked with him. That could happen. Or he might just fancy something in him and think, you know what, there is something there, and there is a scenario I can imagine that kind of gets him his game. But I think, sorry Jay, I know you're desperate to get in, but I think there's maybe one more thing as well where Footy, he did a lot in the summer, and Footy managers sometimes just want to minimise the risk a bit, and he might have been looking at thinking, okay, I want to play a front three more often than not this next year. Who have I got? Look, I've got Sturridge, I've got Firmino, I've bought this Mane in lad, and he looks good, and I think I'm gonna like him. And then I've got Origi, I've got like Coutinho, and then I'm thinking, so I think could I sell Ings, but then I might need him. So if I sell him, I think he's probably thinking, if I sell Ings, I'm going to have to get someone else in. Yeah. And then you're thinking, well, if Ings is sixth choice out of a front three, but you feel like you do need the sixth choice, then you get into a situation of, well, who is it? Who's the ideal man? If you're thinking out there, I want 6 lads who can all play across the front three, and I think he's proved that with where he's played everyone. And who's my sixth choice? What does he look like? How good is he? How much does he cost? And if you think, well, I'll sell Ings for 20, but then I need to replace it for someone who's maybe 10, 15, but I'm not really sure about him. If you sort of get into the scenario, what's the point?
Well, it actually touches on your Jordan Ibe points. I think he doesn't. When I mentioned the Daniel Sturridge point about he's worried Sturridge goes, I don't think it's in I'll keep him for the sake of it in case Sturridge goes. I think he's saying, well, he's a good player, and he could come in and do a job for me if Sturridge is injured and isn't playing for us and isn't, and goes off for 6 months or 3 months. And he maybe, as John maybe says, in comparison to Ibe, he's thinking to himself, well, there's something about you. You are clearly a good player. There's something about you, and I don't want us to get rid of you just yet. I think I'd rather keep you and, run that risk that we make you want to leave than us want to sell you right now. But that, it comes back to this point, doesn't it? Danny Ings has got to be asking himself where he sees his opportunity, because I think he might be asking himself, I mentioned the word before, meritocracy. As much as I think Klopp buys into some of that, this current system, the way we're playing and the players he's got, mean that's pretty much impossible, because you've got Daniel Sturridge, who is Daniel Sturridge. He's got the reputation, there'll be an ego, he's one of if not the highest paid player at the club. You've got Mane, you've just signed for 30 odd million, one of the highest, one of the biggest fees we've paid for a player behind Andy Carroll. I think it's the second biggest, isn't it? So you're not dropping him. Lallana's playing well. You're not dropping Coutinho because you're not risking him going off somewhere else. So Danny Ings finds himself further down the pecking order, not just because of ability, but him and Origi maybe got the thing of, they're not one of these players. They're not one of these names.
Origi says, well, he's gone away for Belgium, and it's sort of along those lines of, for me, Origi comes out, he says, well, they're winning. So I can't, he actually said the opposite. Normally they go away on international duty, you're not getting your game. He actually goes, well, they're winning. So, what can I expect? And I think while you're winning, you can sort of keep a squad happy. But where I get interested in this, Dan, is that if you actually go through this list and you go through this idea of, you've just named their three, the current front three, and then you drop Sturridge into that conversation, and then you begin to refer to sort of Origi, he becomes number 5, and Ings is number 6. And Jay sort of put his finger on it. Between Jay and John, they've said, well, if you'd have to spend 10 to 50 million to replace him anyway, to get someone in who you'd have as number 6, then what are you doing it for? And I think there's another thing here, which is, for me, it's another part of how you can see the manager more and more is thinking about the next 3-4 years as well as thinking about this one. Because I sort of wonder if there's something that happens here, Dan, which is that, we're expecting European football next year, but if we're going to be able to play at this intensity week in, week out domestically and be able to do it in European football, then we are talking about sort of 3, 4, 5 changes in some games from one to the other. We are actually talking about needing this full squad of players, and it could be that right now, and it's not just Ings, a couple of the other younger lads who you'd have thought might have had or got a bit closer at this point of the season one way or another. Grujic could have seen himself getting in and around this a bit more. Ajaria is there, he'll be another year older next season. Alexander-Arnold is broadly speaking hammering the under-23s. He's looking different class at that level, and I just sort of wonder the extent to which we might begin to think that the manager has got one eye on, well, I don't want to do a load of business next summer if this is all working, then it might be that he ends up using these lads a little bit more.
Yeah, it's difficult because, like what Rob said before about Woodburn being 16, I think Ings is a little bit different to all these younger lads as such, because he's sort of an established Premier League player, and you can say to these young kids, look, next year you might get Europa League football, but I still don't think that, I still think it's going to be enough for Danny Ings. I genuinely don't. I mean, all the other players that I think that works for, Gomez coming back, all the other younger lads, I think you can turn around and say to, listen, give it another year. You'll get your chance. We've got all the cups next year. I'll be shocked if we don't get, not that I want to curse, a minimum Europa League football, so that's going to be there next season. But I do think Ings is different, and the thing is, as well as he's missed all the last season as well, pretty much. And if this season he doesn't feature, it's like 2 seasons he won't have really played any proper football.
It's funny you mention the younger players of both of you, because I think, sorry, Rob, I think because you mentioned the younger players there in terms of their development, but it might just be a case of Danny Ings where he's looking at him and thinking, I don't want to buy someone because I want to use Ojo and I want to use Woodburn, but they're not quite ready yet. So if you're selling Ings and replacing him, for example, then are you? You don't want to then have to sell this guy in a year's time, where maybe he's thinking, do you know what, I use Danny Ings for now, he's my man for now, just I get in, because Ojo's a year away and Ben Woodburn looks 2 years away, so is he someone who can kind of bridge the gap there? Is that what he's thinking, rather than maybe thinking he's going to get more out of Ings in a year's time? Is he thinking, well, I don't want to be throwing Shea Ojo in too much yet, or Ben Woodburn's a little bit away, but a year or two down the line, and Danny Ings' value's probably not going anywhere.
I think there's an interesting article by Tony Barrett I read at the weekend where he talked about growing trust and good communication between Klopp and the transfer committee. And though he's a transfer committee by to a large extent, Danny Ings, isn't he? Back from, when was it, 18 months ago now. I don't think Klopp will have seen enough of him pre-season or in his time rehabilitating last season to make a call on him. So if that £20 million bid comes in, I just wonder if some of the leading lights on the transfer committee go, Jurgen, give him a chance. This adds to the point about going out and spending 15, going, we couldn't find you a better one on our list for 12, 13, 14, 15 million. We really rated him. I think we had to pay 6 or 7 million on the tribunal thing. We rated him at 12, 13 even then. His attitude's spot on. Yeah. We thought we had real progression in him, give it a go, and I think it could be a little bit of a manifestation of that faith and Jurgen's faith in them.
But this is where, Rob, to come back to another lad who's had a long time out, for instance, and this is why I do wonder whether or not what Rob's saying may well, what John's saying may well be accurate as well, is that, Joe Gomez, for instance, is now coming back from the second injury after the other ones as well, and he's going to need some time, and yet, I think we probably still expect to see him become a Liverpool player of some level at some point. And this is where I think that, in general, we're too quick to forget sort of that you do need, when you're doing the European jaunt bit properly, when you're genuinely committed to it, which is what we'd be talking about with the Champions League run. We wouldn't be talking about a Europa League thing where it's just bringing people through. At this stage, I expect us to finish, broadly speaking, first, second, third, fourth or fifth. I'd be surprised if we finished lower than fifth. Yeah. So we're looking next season conceivably at having Champions League football, and therefore we're looking at needing sort of 23, 24 if we're going to be able to run 120 kilometres every single game.
Who do you think will definitely finish above, by the way?
Sorry, I don't think we'll definitely finish above any of them.
But we're not going to finish sixth.
I don't think we'll finish sixth now. So which one am I? We'll finish with Chelsea.
One of them's going to
finish with Chelsea.
Yeah, we'll finish with Chelsea.
Sorry,
one of them's going to tank. But you're right. Sorry, Jay. I think you're right on that. I mean, you know what? If you don't persevere with someone like Danny Ings, we're faced next August with looking at getting, and say we're in the Champions League, with going to buy a striker who's a third choice, fourth choice striker, and hoping he beds in well enough to start a Champions League game in Paris or Moscow or whatever. And this is what we always dream of. We always say with new signings. But it's funny that the window of when is it Rodgers' much maligned window, the window of Markovic, Lallana, Lovren, Origi, Chan, now looks a pretty solid window. Well, maybe the window that brought in Danny Ings is going to look more solid by the minute when we come to next summer.
Well, there's one bit we both of these points I'm going to make we don't know as much about. We certainly don't know what Klopp's saying to try and keep them happy, but I think that's an important thing. You've got to keep some of these players happy. You've brought in Grujic, who's been playing first team football, plays for his national team. Ings was on the periphery of, I think, the first team, was playing at England level for certainly the under-21s and stuff like that. You've got to be saying to these lads what's he saying to keep them happy, to convince them that he's giving them a game next year, and that they're not thinking to themselves, well, hang on, Ojo does get a game and he's better, or Woodburn comes on leaps and bounds, or someone comes available and Liverpool thinks better, and I've wasted, like Danny Ings there, I've wasted another year and I could have just got off in January and been playing for someone else by now, and maybe been forcing me way into the England team because I'm playing for someone who's 7th or 8th in the league and stuff like that. I think the other side of it though is you've got to give them a chance at some point to just see how good they are and if they make us better, because Ings done this and Origi did as well when he came into the team. We were trying Firmino up top on his own. It wasn't working. Liverpool didn't look the same, and Origi came in and he just looked really good. And this has been a lad who'd not had the greatest of seasons the year before under Lille. He'd been training with us for 6 months. He'd come on in a couple of games and looked a bit like a headless chicken at times, just running the channels. And yet he came in then and he looked really good and he developed an awful lot. Joe Gomez, the same thing. We weren't sure he was going to start. Comes in the beginning of last year and he just looks really good. And you think, hang on, he's made us better. He made us look more solid at the back. And Danny Ings, you're thinking to yourself, as good as Firmino, Mane and Lallana and that are, you think to yourself, well, if Klopp changes it in a game, if he makes some subs, or in the League Cup, if he makes a complete different change in size, maybe Origi and Ings up top together and he goes with 2. I know you like to play the way you're playing, but if he tries something different to give the lads a game and keep them happy, but also to try something different and see, hang on, can they make me reevaluate how we're doing things? I think that's important, because Danny Ings comes in for Firmino. Say Firmino comes back from international break with an injury and Sturridge gets a knock, and you think, well, you know what, we're going to give Origi and Ings a go here, and one of them starts. He's starting in his position, and we haven't challenged the idea of, well, can we play a bit different because we get something better out of this player, which we've done under Klopp in the past. We've changed our system in last year to adapt to certain players to get the best out of them.
And he said in the summer when we spoke to him, I'm not necessarily going to play like this all season.
No, exactly.
So I don't think he is tired.
No, I don't think he is. I just think it's an interesting thing in trying to give these lads games as well about how you try and do that, because I do think there'll be, like in work, wouldn't you? If we all felt undervalued in work, we'd be like, you know what, I could just sit here and pick my wage up, but I really want to go on because I think I can be a bit better than this. And I think that's where Danny Ings is at more than any of the other players at the minute, as Dan said, because of his age, and he's probably saying to his mates and his missus, I don't know what I've got to do to get a game here.
Last little bit on this, John, to before we move it along. And I'm someone who, for instance, would more than happily see us go out to the League Cup for almost every opportunity if it meant that we'd be stronger looking at domestic football. In the league title race. But the Spurs game, it's actually quite significant for a few of these lads who are likely to play this game that they get a result. Not least because it could, there's every chance that Ings finds a way to get a start against Spurs, but it could be Ings as an example, possibly Alexander-Arnold if he gets his game at right back, because this could be the bridge in for them with an eye on next season, being able to impress, to say, you know what, Gaffer, we can do it. I mean, this could be one of those weird League Cup campaigns where Liverpool actually put out on paper a weaker side every game, but that side's more desperate to get the win, if you know what I mean.
Possibly. I think he'll play a strong team. I don't think we want to get beat by Tottenham at home at this stage of the season, or whatever stage of the season it comes out. It's in a couple of weeks, isn't it? Probably 7. There's probably 4 England games first. I don't think we want to get beat by Tottenham at home, especially if they're above us in the table. So I think that'll be pressing Klopp's mind. And I think the players who play, especially the first team players. So I don't necessarily think that. I think they'll recognise that we want to put a bit of a marker down here. Oh, how good is this Tottenham side? We went there and outplayed them, and then suddenly now they're beating Man City and they're above us. I think the Tottenham game's a little bit too big for what you'd like from the League Cup. I think it'd be great if we beat them, but I'd much rather be playing a Championship team, because then I think all the things that you're saying comes into play really well. So I think you can rest a few, and I think the likes of Trent and Ajani were saying, well, look at me, I'm ready for this level. Not that it's quite the Premier League level, okay, maybe a lower Premier League team. And you're thinking, I think the Tottenham one's a potential, a bit of a nuisance if you want him to be resting players, or you want him to kind of concentrate on the league campaign, because I understand what you're saying, but I think, in Klopp's mind and a few of his players' mind, they're thinking, if we beat these 2 or 3-0 at home, then everyone's going, but the Liverpool still, no matter what team Tottenham put out.
I think that there is a middle ground, though, with Tottenham. I mean, notwithstanding that Pochettino has more than hinted that he'll put kids out himself, but assuming you're right and he does want to go strong, I think there's a part of him that want to say, yeah, but we're strong beyond just the first 11 here. Origi, Sturridge and Ings aren't all getting a game. I think he might like to see Ings in that company and go, I can't put all three on the pitch, but you might go Mane, Origi and Firmino, for example. You might say that it's not the end of the world to pull Coutinho out or pull him back a bit or have him on the bench. So I think there's possibly a halfway house without thinking you're not competing or going full tilt.
Okay. Football often laughs at plans as well. Let's be very honest about that.
Oh, yeah.
I think
don't even know he's fit.
One of its favourite things is to be able to do that. The manager's playing Crown Green Bowls, Dan, in what is fantastic content for Liverpool. I want to come on to actually having a conversation about the fact that Liverpool are using that sort of stuff well, and I actually think it's actually important these days to do that stuff well. But before then, he sort of half drops the title word in amongst that when he's having a conversation in between ends. It was good to see they got in his head, gave a bit of needle with him. It was excellent. It was the thing that most pleased me about the whole thing. But they say to him, what are your hopes for this season? And he says, hopefully a cup run. He says, and there's the thing that I can't talk about, because if I talk about everything will go boom, which can only be one thing. But it does suggest again that you often hear that there is a focus at Melwood externally. It was one of the things that came out 13-14 was we were trying to speak to people. I know Andy was working really hard to get interviews, and they were like, no one's giving interviews because they're all focused on one thing and they're not going to talk about it in public.
Yeah.
And you do think that this is sort of what's beginning to happen again now. Sometimes seasons start a certain way, everyone looks at each other and says, this is a real thing.
Yeah, I mean, it worries me when you start thinking about things this early. I mean, we done one last week, didn't we? Yeah. And you start talking about the title and things that, and it, you think, I played about what? 3 games and we're talking about winning it. But I just think with Klopp, he's just so sound, isn't he? That you can do all these things with him, and he does see. I mean, you guys know from doing it that he does seem just open up when he's talking to anyone about anything. Like he's got nothing to hide, and I think everything he's done previously as well, he can sort of back it up. And maybe, which is good for us, he's got a feeling that he had when he was at Dortmund, maybe early season, when he's thinking,
seeing signs.
Yeah, this feels sort of the same type of thing here. He does seem very confident all the time when he's doing his interviews about things, and I believe that he thinks we can win the league. I believe that he thinks that we can genuinely win the league, and that's why I so think that we can win the league as well. Because if you believe what Klopp's saying and you believe what the manager's thinking is, then he just gets everyone on board with it straight away.
Yeah, there's no getting away from that. I've not seen this.
Rob doesn't need Jürgen Klopp to think we can win the league.
No, I know.
No, instead of 13-14, it took a long time for me to get there. Well, once it becomes a real thing, then it's scary.
Well, how long did it take you in 13-14 to think you could win?
It was ages,
When we beat City 3-2.
Fucking end of April.
Oh, yeah. Do you know why?
Fucking messing.
Yeah, but there's
your man. He had an awful time.
I know, but that's because it was my inner sort of wishful kid took over, and I thought, if this is going to get taken away from me, I didn't want to believe, because I thought, if this gets taken away from me, I'll be broken hearted. And then, as I believed, it fucking got taken away from me. It was like the sickest.
Should have got into it earlier. At least we got 2 months.
Oh, don't get me wrong.
I had Arsenal at home, Rob, in ways you can't even conceive.
The lads around me in the ground laughed at me because I said it in the January. I said we might win the league,
I said it to Neil,
and I genuinely just said it joking because we beat Hull, and I think we played someone else and we looked decent, and I jokingly said, we'll win the league, and they were like, no, and then got to Arsenal, I was like, we're going to win the league again. Yeah. And they were like, no, and then it was like, we're going to fucking
after 20 minutes, the carrying you a
then my lads, they were like, well, in, Jay.
That little run, but
I think Klopp's doing that. I think Klopp's sitting in a dressing room and coming in as the games going,
doing the Collatore well.
I reckon he's saying,
no, this is the thing.
I don't think he's saying to them, we're going to try and win the league, but I think he's saying to them, this is what league winners do.
Yeah, this is what
they do. They do, and that's why I think he done it with. People say he wanted that statement against the whole game. He wanted them to keep going for it. I think he wanted them to say, "We're going to keep doing this.
Yeah.
We're going to show what we've got, mainly just to make ourselves look good." But
it wouldn't surprise me if he's doing it to individual players as well. I wouldn't be surprised me if he say to the likes of Lallana, you know what? That lad I had at Dortmund, he's not better than you. Do you know what I mean? That, everyone talks about him now, but when I got him, you're better than him.
Yeah, wait till they all go on international break next time round. They're going, Klopp was saying this to me. He said it to me as well.
I mean, that's fine to an extent, is it? But it wouldn't surprise me if he's doing it. If he's saying to the players. But I'm just.
It's when he's talking to Mkhitaryan and said that to me, isn't it?
Well, maybe. But I think I'm just pleased that he seems a lot more relaxed, Jürgen, and I was really pleased to see the video just because he'd done it and he just looked like. I see his old self. It feels like him going back, but there was the times last season where it looked like it was doing his head in. The Liverpool job, the players that he had, the fact that there was games every 3 days, and you just saw him, getting interviewed after the game, we've thrown one away or something, and he looked like 10 years old, and you're like, oh no, we've done it to another one. You know what I mean?
He's found a comfortable space, I think, to do this kind of thing, because we've seen him with managers in the past. They don't want to do this stuff, whereas Klopp's happy to do it. I actually feel really sorry for him, because it was revealed that he went on exchange to Luton.
Yeah,
to Luton. What does that do to someone who's young? What does that do to someone like him?
Absolutely breaks
them.
It is important to put the personalities over, I think, Rob. And I think that that's something that in general we're sort of getting better at. I think you see, for instance, Firmino grabs the club's Instagram, and you can end up talking just about the internet, and it shouldn't be just about the internet. It's about the fact that, Lallana's given really good interviews, if you know what I mean, recently to local papers, The Echo, where he feels like, he's not on the Crosby Herald. He feels like he's...
40 times it is.
It just sort of feels as though someone's trying to empower these footballers to be themselves a little bit, and whether or not that's Liverpool FC, whether or not that's Jurgen Klopp. There's the stories that, for instance, Klopp wants them to know the name of every single employee at Melwood, that he thinks that that's important. That's come out because it is important to have a one club mentality. But you feel like, and it's the sort of stuff that's easy to do when you're all playing well. But for instance, I think the converse of this is that we might have to put up with a few more people being asked honest questions and given honest answers, because if the manager wants this open honesty stuff, then at some point you're going to ask someone who isn't playing, or someone who isn't playing necessarily in the position they might want, and they're going to say, well, to be honest with you, I'm not playing in the position that I'd like, because that's... I think it's all good. I think it's all part.
So you think that he's asking them to be more accessible? That's an active policy. I
think that Klopp, somewhere in the club, someone is encouraging the footballers and the manager to be more accessible, and that the manager is extending that policy beyond just simply whoever it is at the club who's going, you know what, this is a good thing and we can do more of it. That's what I think.
It could be that he sat down and goes, it has to be about the relationship with the fans if you're doing it. Unless it's rawly commercial, which I don't think it is.
I don't think any of it has been so far.
I don't reckon New Balance are spending loads of money because Jurgen Klopp went to Mossley to play bowls or something. Do you know what I mean?
So if it's about
showing we're normal and a laugh and different.
Yes, it's about communication with us, and if it's about that, it's about how important he sees us as to Liverpool winning, to his project succeeding, and that there has to be buy-in across from everyone, and he feels that the players have to feel the fans breathing on their neck in a positive way, and then that's reciprocated. And if that is the strategy, it's bold, it's exciting, and good.
But that video is also more believable than Jurgen Klopp doing, a straight Q&A with one of the journalists at LFC TV and just publishing it on the site, and doing one of those interviews with the black backdrop in Melwood somewhere. Do you know what I mean? Looks bored, everyone's expecting him to say it. He doesn't say too much, but he does this he does this slightly more, accessible, a bit more interesting. It does strike me that, he's probably maybe happy to say yes to doing these things a bit more than past managers would have as well, because, there are some good people at LFC who, would have gone to him with ideas like this, and the people who do
imagine trying to convince Rafa Benitez to play balls.
Rafa, we're going to take you to play balls, and the manager...
He'd have played, but he'd have ruined it.
Yeah, because he'd have analysed it.
One of them would have quit.
I
used to like balls. Now he's got me doing this.
Yeah, they'd have been made, wouldn't they? They'd have had arguments and that, but he's like... he can see that in himself to just be... And I think some of it as well is he's happy to shoulder it all for the players as well. I think he's making the players more accessible, but he's like, I'll do the talking about the team, I'll do the talking about the title, I'll do the... I'll lead the way on this. I'll do it as much as I expect you to do it.
It's just the type of manager he is as well, though, because like when you say Rafa there as a joke, but it's like he'd never have done it because it's not his style of doing it. This is just like Klopp's style. It's like it's as if he's just come in and gone, well, you want me as manager? This is what I do. This is what I'm like. They come and support you every week. I mean, everyone laughs at us about the West Brom game, don't they, all in front of the cop and all that. But that worked. That worked since that game onwards. It's just been like as close as I can remember it, to be honest.
I think what he might... we don't know about his earlier careers. Well, we don't get the extent of this. Is he's a big media personality for a while in Germany, isn't he? Between the Mainz and the Dortmund jobs in particular. He may have sensed that a lot of the success he has in Germany is because he was the perception of him as a personality had got bigger and bigger and bigger as time went by, and that this gave him an authority over and above everyone. Do you know what I mean? Mourinho hints at it in his own way. Mourinho does it in a way that can only go. But Klopp may say, you know what, I can only do so much by chatting to them man to man or team to manager in a dressing room. There's only so much of that managerial cut up and at 'em boys that I can do. But when I'm sort of in their ears and their tellies and their media everywhere, I'm kind of subconsciously getting at them in another way. I'm the voice of God, you know what I mean? Yeah. I do wonder, well, I'm exaggerating, but I do wonder whether there's a strategy to go, make it all-encompassing, this thing.
Well, there was a little moment I remember last season, the Dortmund game, when the way in which he welcomed the Dortmund players off the pitch when they got substituted at Anfield, like they've just gone through absolute hell. And it's awful, and it's all falling down around their ears to some extent, and then they're getting subbed, and then this fella's giving them a big hug. And I remember sort of thinking that I'm sure he's just being a nice person to a certain extent, but if I'm the fella who's just got the hug, I'm thinking I hate you.
Patronised,
but simultaneously, it's a really quite complex thing, and that, you know, that, and I think he rightly sort of credits, and it's generous of him. On one hand, other managers wouldn't do it, but he's trying to build something. He credits the atmosphere to get the results. But I do wonder, to a certain extent, the way in which the Dortmund players do exceed the reality that's presented in front of them a little bit is because they're thinking, oh no, it's Jurgen and another team.
Yes,
he's done it. He's done what he did with our gaff. He's done that here, and we're just going to cop for this now, and we've just got to hang on. And that's why Hummels is pulling them in and going, come on lads, let's just get through this. This becomes suddenly an ordeal because there's all this other stuff, and it may or may not make an impact. And fundamentally, let's just remember that football is generally dictated by what footballers do in moments. But I think in general it shows a vibe of warmth that may well, again, can work on a number of different levels and be really, really useful. All right then, next thing to mention is tour player.
It was Matt Dortmund, wasn't he? I know.
You know, he just realised this, John.
I know what he means, the delay sometimes on that sort of thing.
It was absolutely bananas.
The whole game's crazy.
Like, is it Tuchel, is it how you pronounce it? He was talking about it again at the weekend, going,
still shaking his head.
Honestly,
is this like his Ancelotti moment, where Ancelotti's just like had to write it off as like, this was like something that's happened that night?
I think it was, he was talking about it again at the weekend, going, you tell me.
Well, the mad thing is, you forget. Well, I was having before the game against Hull. I was with Steve Graves and we were chatting about it, and you forget the order the goals go in, because you forget that, you know, Royce scores before Coutinho. That Royce scores to make
it's 3-1.
It's 3-1, and you think that's, you know, and then it's the Coutinho goal that sparks the fact that you can't cope with it. All right,
Ian Lovren scored in the winning header.
I know. Who scores our first?
The only goal I remember.
But
so that's 2-1.
That's in the second half, though.
Yeah, and then they straight away make.
He scored 4 goals in front of the Kop. 4 goals in front of the Kop in one half.
Yeah,
it's all right, isn't it?
It's mad.
I'll take more of that.
We were pretty good that night, weren't we?
I was pretty drunk is what I was, Jay.
Second half we were pretty good. Okay. Tour player then. We've got loads of good stuff lined up. We've had some come over the weekend. John Keith and Tony Barrett talking to Gareth Roberts about the way covering Liverpool's changed. Also what we call history, part 3 of 07-08. I think you might actually get a mention in about part 6.
I seen you doing. I seen someone tweet saying 07-08, and I was thinking, fucking hell, lads. People who were listening to 08-09 thinking this is boss. And what have you done? 13-14?
No, because we covered that at the time. I wouldn't feel like
I'm just thinking, like, you know, people are listening. Like, you've done a treble in a season, haven't you?
Yeah.
So people are like listening to this season that are seeing 07-08, just thinking, fuck that. No way am I listening to that, lads.
Jay spent a year with a megaphone.
Bad enough the first time.
I think you're down to come in February. I think that'll be about part 6. It's tough that long to get through.
Is that a yes?
No, not to come on the show, just to be talked about.
Fuck that being talked about.
Yeah, when I write that agenda point, and then number 8 is Jay McKenna, the back of the sanding. Anyway, people
are making stickers about it now, Jane t-shirts.
No. There is all that to come on that, and that's been really, really good so far. It'll remain being good, and we've got a really good thing coming. We should be interviewing, and I always say should on these things because footballers are busy people, or former footballers are busy people, and things can fall through. But we're hopeful we're going to be interviewing Jason McAteer this week. We're really looking forward to doing that, me and Rob, tomorrow. And then the other thing that we've done is there was a conversation at Marine with a couple of former Liverpool players at Marine over the weekend, which was absolutely fabulous.
You were very honest
and open about their time at Liverpool and what's happened to them then and also in their career since then. So really looking forward to that. So that's all stuff that's on the tour player, as well as all the obvious stuff, including all your build up to Manchester United, who come to Anfield on Monday, and we'll be doing that in the Friday show, which comes out on Friday morning at 7:30, and you can listen to it any time during the day that you like. So we record it all on Thursday. It makes it very difficult organisationally, people. You send emails to people and everyone thinks they've got to come on Friday. But anyway, Manchester United, Dan Vincent, they're good. And I think we've got to start saying this, but there's such a wave of excitement around the Reds at the moment. I think it's worth pointing out that this is literally a game that Man United could win. They didn't have to play that well to win necessarily. I'd like to think that it'll be a really hard game for them, but they only really need to play very good football for 15-20 minutes and hang on for the rest of it, which is one of the things their manager's very good at, for them to get a result at Anfield.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. It's typical Mourinho, isn't it? I mean, if I was a Man United fan, that I'd be more worried about playing us at Anfield than I am about playing them, if that makes sense. But yeah, they could obviously beat us to the top side. They're a really good side. They've got really good players. I think where they're good is where we're most weak. So they could get at us that way. And like you say, if they have a good 10-15 minute period and they were to beat us 1-0, I think you've got to just take these games on the chin. All the top teams can beat each other home and away, and you know it might not even matter in the bigger picture of things, as we proved last season. So not that I want to be downbeat about it already, because I do think we'll win, but if we were to get beat, I don't think it's the end of the world. And yeah, God, sorry, Rob.
No, I do think it'll be the end of the world. Well, I don't know. It shouldn't be, but it will feel like it.
It'll feel like it, but I just mean in the bigger picture of things. You know?
I know. It's an interesting game for them. Mourinho's got to harness the fact that this is a chance to just dig in, not let Liverpool beat them, and maybe win it, and slightly rehabilitate a season that's gone slightly awry. But you do feel they're vulnerable right now, and despite Mourinho building this narrative that Stoke was actually a brilliant performance, it's Stoke, they were bottom of the league, and he goes, that was our best performance. And was it, Jose? Well done there. Your good players, one of whom cost you 100 million pounds. He did okay. Did he? Really well done. But he's actually done well in actually sort of slightly trying to make that not the unmitigated disaster it actually was. We'd have been fuming if we'd drawn 1-1 at home to Stoke. Even now, after our good start, we'd have been like, fucking hell. But he's rehabilitated that. What I'm getting at is I think they're fragile. If we score first, I think they're in a whole load of pain. John?
Yeah, it feels like a bigger game for them than it does for us, I think. If we win, then we were talking about Marcus before. I think it does set something down. And I think Manchester United probably start to worry if they're not already. If we win and win well, and I think if we do, I think if we win, we will win well. I see that the way that the kind of the way it goes. You just worry a bit because obviously, I think because of the way they've started, I think they'll set up in a slightly different way. I think they'll be particularly ambitious, and I think Mourinho will be fine with that. I think he'll be able to get buy-in from the players because of the way it's gone to kind of do that. Really, it wouldn't surprise me if he really misses out again and he just kind of goes a bit bigger and just a bit more alehouse really, and then that kind of worries you a bit because I think they can do a good impression of an alehouse team because they've got very good players and the guys who are big are generally good at football, and the guys who are big are generally good at football. Ibrahimovic especially, and so it could be a real tricky opponent for us. But then you don't know their confidence going in. Like said, Rob's points as well, they are a little bit fragile. They don't look tremendous at the back. They conceded the goal to Stoke after even kind of dominating the game. There was Joanna has a really good chance before the one he gets, and so they do look a bit vulnerable. So you just really want Liverpool to play well. And I know that sounds really, really basic, but I think because you want that in all football games, but I think especially in this one, I think if we can go out there and play really, really well or just well, I just don't see a scenario how they beat us unless we're very shaky at the back.
United take a 1-1 right now.
Of course.
You offer Mourinho it now, he says, I'll take 1-1 straight away. And I think if you ask Klopp that, Klopp says, I'll take maybe it's a draw, but he doesn't. But he thinks we can beat them. Yeah. So he goes for that. What I'd say is that, Andre, Mourinho's got a history of that first and foremost. That's straightforward. But also, I'd take a 1-1 at Old Trafford right now, if you know what I mean. That's it. That's what I mean. He's thinking, because of what it is represent, doing it against Liverpool, it'd be frustrating for us because we're playing well. He knows he's putting a rival on the, he's maybe putting a bit of a buffer out against the rivals then, and showing that you can go there and play against them because he's as happy to do that so other teams come and do it. And he wants to stop a bit of a rot at United in that respect. Go to Liverpool, work a result. So I think he takes that. I think Liverpool, there's a danger. I think we go into it too confident as fans. Certainly as fans in the ground, we go in there thinking, it's Man United, it's a Monday night, we're all a bit boisterous, we've been in work, we've been excited all day, people have got off half day maybe, or they just come straight from work, chippy tea, and they're like, they haven't even had a pint and thinking, right, come on, it's United, I'm up for this, we're going to do these, we're playing great, this shite, all that stuff. And then United for 20 minutes just frustrate the hell out of us, and everyone's like, oh no.
2015 that happened, didn't it?
Yeah,
I think Rooney plays for this reason. I think Rooney plays because it's Liverpool, and he knows he'll take loads of the flack. He'll cop for loads of the flack for their players. Carrick just sits, Fellaini's being a bit snidey and stuff like that. He might get a game because they're happy to go alehouse, as John says. They're happy to annoy you. Imagine Ibrahimovic, couldn't you?
What's interesting?
Centre-halves. You can picture it now.
You can't picture it now, but what's interesting, and I'll go to Rob on this. If they he's just mentioned there, Carrick, Fellaini and Rooney, none of whom started against Stoke.
Yeah.
If they're saying that the best performance the reason why I'm saying this is interesting is that they're the players that you're worried about to a certain extent in a weird way. If their best performance this season was against Stoke, they put 4 past Leicester. That was copying our formation. It was playing a similar shape to us, a similar shape to City. It was Herrera sitting deepest with Pogba and Mata in front in a midfield 3. You know, I keep saying this. We're doing Henderson, Lallana / Coutinho against Swansea.
City are playing this one.
I think there's a fantastic game of football. If they come and do that, there's a fantastic game of football.
Well, that's the question.
That is equally as anyone's. That is equally could end up a draw 0-0 because you just defences are having a great game, missing chances.
No way Mourinho comes and plays like
no,
that.
well, that's my thing. I don't think he does.
I don't think he does either. But what I'm saying
because
is
of what it represents, not because he's scared of getting beat. Because I think he knows coming and playing that sends a powerful statement of, well, this is the new United. It gets a monkey off his back of people thinking he's a bit alehouse at times. It shows that he wants to play a certain kind of football, which gets rid of the Van Gaal and the Moyes perceptions, gets rid of this thing of he's only got one way of playing. He comes to Anfield and does that. I'd be a bit like, the way we're playing,
that's a massive gamble.
Exactly.
What I think ordinarily
he's on safer ground.
Mourinho's instincts would be to do what he does at the end of 13-14. He goes, we're underdogs here, because they are underdogs. The betting shows that more so than normal. I go and Mourinho them, and my lads, and we can nick it on the break because we've got quality. I don't think he yet trusts this United, and quite rightly, this United squad's defensive attributes, and I don't think he'll trust its ability to play solid. Therefore, I think he's likelier.
I don't think he'll risk a hammer him.
That's what I was going to say. If you go toe-to-toe,
I think he'll pack the midfield.
But the rationale, the reasoning, not that I think he'll do it, but the reasoning for them doing that is to say we're going to completely surprise Liverpool here.
Yeah.
Liverpool fans, Liverpool are thinking to themselves, all the coverage is going to be who's coming back in. He's going to think this is my trick. My trick isn't certain set pieces and stuff like that. My trick's going to be I'm not playing that team.
I don't think it's going to affect Klopp either way, though, is it? He'll just set up with his team and his players and just think, well,
but the challenge for Liverpool if he plays the alehouse side of thing is that we've said about breaking down Hull, teams who come and park the bus. How'd you break down a Man United? How'd you break down that Mourinho side like we couldn't get our heads around and we lost our heads trying to break down Chelsea in 13-14?
I remember when Chelsea went to Man City away.
Well, we did do it, Dan, didn't we? In March just gone, or April, whenever it was. Van Gaal went alehouse, deep an alehouse to try and combat our press.
But Mourinho doing it, I think it's a different thing. He is clever. He knows what he's doing. He'll get the players into this. They'll be well drilled. It's why I don't think he'll do it. But say, if I was asked for a split, I reckon there's a 1 in 4 chance he says to himself, you know what, we're gonna set up this way, ready up to because he's given his players till Tuesday off, and he's going to do a couple of days this week. alehouse drills and stuff like that. But then
standing on people.
Can't believe he's brought. He's
got the under-18s in to practice standing on the toes.
Has he brought a crate of ale?
No, he's literally doing stuff, and the players are doing this, and then he's saying to them we're going to do some other bits, and then he says to them go out and play. I want you. We're going to go toe for toe with them. We're going to try and surprise them. I just wouldn't put it past them to think that is ace up his sleeve.
It's literally a week today, and it's such an interesting game. It is. I mean, generally, it'd be an interesting game of football. Man United versus Man City was an interesting game of football. Man City versus Spurs was an interesting game of football. It's the most interesting.
Well, for us as Liverpool fans, it represents something, doesn't it? Because it is that thing of thinking we are doing it to fucking all comers now.
Yeah.
If we do this, we're doing it to all comers. That's where we'll be thinking to ourselves. You're getting one over on people. It gives you momentum. And it'll be great doing it on the back of an international break. We've come back, we've had that break, we've done it again. We'll just keep doing it. That's it does get you thinking. That's why the excitement will be there. It's not because it's United, it's because of what it represents. Yeah, it's fair enough.
The Anfield rap.